I'm satisfied with life now. One kid wherever. He likes the guy.
We all know Judy. I just follow. I'm here. I just follow.
Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. Great, it's working.
Testing 1, 2. It is.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalem, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalem, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Amalachim, Malachei Malachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Malachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Malachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sefchem, Sefchem Shalom. Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amalachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Sing Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amalachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Sing Shalom, Malachei Shalom. Malachei Amalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
It is wonderful to be here with all of you for the Shabbat. And as I like to say, whether you're joining us in person or joining us through the magic of the internet, it's great to gather for this special day for Jews, this moment of rest and comfort and of study as well, which we'll do in a little bit. But we begin our Shabbat service, as we always do, with our candle lighting and our Kiddush, which can be found on page 120 in your book. I believe everyone has the thinner book, so you probably do have the double numbers at the bottom. You're looking for the larger one in the brackets in blue, page 120. And actually, we begin on page 121. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. And as we have done for the past 9 months, we continue to light this third candle for those still held hostage. Please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
If everybody can turn to page 123, we are about to pledge ourselves to the Shabbat with the Kiddushat Hayom, the sanctification of the day. Cantor Richmond, of course, will help lead this as well as my dear colleagues. When we stand, we are raising ourselves to a higher plane of holiness. And by the way, when we do stand, you will also be rehearsing this time when we bring the generations that have come before us and God to us into our sacred space. And later on with the Chadodi, when we stand once again, we are not just elevating ourselves, but also bringing those generations to the front. And when we turn to face the back to welcome the Shabbat, we are literally inviting the Shabbat. Like when you're at your own home, when you're sitting at a table, somebody comes in, you stand to greet them. You bring them into your energy and you have them dwell with you. So when you do turn and stand, you're bringing the Shabbat with you. And then you are letting the Shabbat dwell not just among you, but within all of you. So now we will start this dual gesture, because it's all about the twos on Shabbat, right? Dualism. So we first stand, raising ourselves to a higher plane of holiness. And on page 123, we sing together the Kiddushat Hayom, the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava v'ratzon הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום התחילה מגריגרי קודש, זכר לציון במצרים, כי בנו וכתבתם אותנו, קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. And we say together, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat shalom.
L'chaim,
L'chaim.
L'chaim, to life, because I like to ask, life is what? Good.
Good.
Life is good. Please be seated.
Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, Shabbat is a time to study. And that is what we're going to do today, this evening. That moment of the drash, of the Devar Torah, really is an opportunity to study. It's a teaching. But I believe that teaching works best when it is collaborative. And so this evening, especially because we are here in our chapel, especially because we happen to have the projector here with us, we are going to study a passage of our parsha for this week together. And so, David, if you might hand me the sheet that's sitting there. Perfect, thank you. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Hukat. I would say perhaps unfortunately, although I know some people really like this section of it, this Torah portion is often associated with what's known as the red heifer, or the red cow. It talks about this really weird ritual that ultimately the rabbis chalk it up to basically like, you just do it. It's just part of what God commanded, so you do it. Rather than focus on the red cow, though, the red heifer part of Hukat, I want to focus on what happens later. What we're going to study today, Numbers chapter 21, verses 1 through 9, actually really 1 through 10, but 10's kind of an extra verse in our case, is the end of the second shlish, the middle section of the portion, which happens to be the year that we are in for this cycle of Torah reading. And here, we get to a couple of really quick little narratives, some of which, especially one of which, you've probably at least heard a little bit about before, but might not have really dove into, like, why do these narratives exist here in this section of the book of Numbers. One really important thing to know before we dive into the text is where we are in our timeline. Right before these couple of stories, we have the second time that Moses gets the water from the rock, or that God actually provides the water from the rock. And before that is the moment in the Torah where we go from the first of the 40 years of wandering, jumping basically 38, 39 years to the final year of wandering. And so the stories we are about to see happen right at the end of the wandering of the Israelites. Really important to know. So let's begin. Here we are with the first little bit of narrative that we have. And I'll read it for us because it also will go out to the people again through the magic of the internet. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who dwelt in the Negeb, learned that Israel was coming by the way of Atarim, he engaged Israel in battle. Then Israel made a vow to Adonai and said, "If you deliver this people into our hand, we will proscribe their towns." Adonai heeded Israel's plea and delivered up the Canaanites, and they and their cities were proscribed. So that place was named Hormah. Okay. I want you to think about the stories in the Torah that you know. And I want to hear from you, what is different about this story, perhaps from another story or two that you might have heard before? Say it louder.
Murder them all.
So,
Cities were basically closed off.
so we don't know exactly what happened. You were saying that we didn't kill them all. And as we go through the Torah, and actually in a little bit when they're conquering the land of Israel, where you see more of those stories, God either tells them you're going to kick everyone out or just conquer the place and leave it at that. We can get into that another time, but let's think about the stories that just happened. Here's one other important thing that isn't obvious in the English for sure, and isn't really all that obvious in the Hebrew either. But the rabbis tell us that coming by the way of Atarim is actually a reference to the place where the Israelites sent the spies. And so what story might you be wanting to think about? The story of the spies. Let's start. How many spies? 12. How many of them brought back good tidings? 2. 2 of them basically said, actually, they all kind of brought back good tidings. Like, yeah, it's a really great land, but only 2 of them, Caleb and Joshua, said, we can still conquer that land. The other 10 said, no way. So what's different here? They're all in it together, absolutely. They are united here. That is one major difference. What else is different? Jessica. They clearly think that there's a chance they can win, and why is that?
They're asking God, they're making a deal with God.
They are agreeing, they are making a deal, they are asking God for help. Really, actually, if you go back to the story of the scouts, the big thing that they're disagreeing on is the 10 scouts say, we can't do that. There's no way that we, the Israelites, can do that. And Caleb and Joshua don't actually disagree with them. They say, well, if God is with us, we can. So here, in this first little story, the Israelites have learned that if God is with them, they might be able to accomplish it. And indeed they do. That's what we see. Let's get to the second story. Okay. Here is the second story. At least most of it. Oh, got all of it on the screen. Perfect. They set out from Mount Hor by way of the Sea of Reeds to skirt the land of Edom. But the people grew restive on the journey. And the people spoke against God and against Moses. Why did you make us leave Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread and no water, and we have come to loathe this miserable food. God, Adonai, sent seraph serpents. Seraph means like burning, flaming. Seraph serpents against the people. They bit the people, and many of the Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, we sinned by speaking against Adonai and against you. Intercede with Adonai to take away the serpents from us. And Moses interceded for the people. So Adonai said to Moses, make a seraph figure and mount it on a standard, and anyone who was bitten who then looks at it shall recover. Moses made a copper serpent, mounted it on a standard, and when bitten by a serpent, anyone who looked at the copper serpent would recover. Okay. Again, there are probably a few stories that you might be thinking of here. What's similar and what's different? Speak against God, bad things happen. Is this the first time we've seen them speak against God and Moses? No, definitely not. This has happened many, many times again. And indeed, what's kind of one of their complaints here? Tired of the food, tired of the water. We hear that over and over. And what's the other recurring theme here? Yep. Why did you make us leave Egypt? But here's a really important thing. Remember, when is this happening? At the end. Most of them didn't leave Egypt. Who did leave Egypt? Their parents, the generations before them. So why are they still focusing on why did you make us leave Egypt? Most of them didn't even know Egypt. Any thoughts? We'll come back. Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
Well, what I wonder is, I've heard that it was the men who were doomed to die in the wilderness and not the women because, like, they had instigated the golden calf. I know that's all midrash, but it makes me wonder if there was anything to it. And, are the women complaining now? The women who did leave?
That is an interesting thought, that there is some difference between the men were complaining about maybe the spies and the golden calf, and now the women are complaining. I would suggest that, again, that may probably be more of a midrashic interpretation, and I would suggest that really all of them probably were complaining at the same time, especially as we have here here it just says the people. It's not exactly clear that it's all of them, but a lot of times throughout the other Torah we say all of the congregation came against God and Moses. Yes?
I wonder if there was some revisionist history about how wonderful Egypt was, and all these generations later, they remembered some of the good and not the bad.
Yeah, so maybe some of their parents are saying, like, I remember some of the good things that happened in Egypt, and the next generation isn't really holding on to that. Kevin? And so even if the parents didn't talk all that much about how great it was, which they probably didn't, to be honest, they never really experienced how bad it was either. Kind of two sides of a similar coin there. Okay. Let's hold on to that thought, and we're going to keep going. And so God then sends this plague, essentially, the seraph serpents, and what happens? People die. But then what happens is very different from in the past. Two things here. You are right, Cheryl, that here it does seem that they get to pray to an idol. If you think back to the golden calf, this doesn't feel all that different. The main difference here probably is that the golden calf, the Israelites ask for it and they say, make us a god to pray to. That's absent here. Who tells Moses to make it here? God. So it's the reverse of the golden calf in a way. And they're not necessarily praying to it. I'll tell you what the rabbis say. The rabbis say that this image of the copper serpent was very purposefully mounted on a high standard, a really tall pole. And what the rabbis tell us is that anyone who looks up to that serpent, even if they think they're looking to the serpent, is actually looking to God. And that's what saves them. In a way, God's kind of tricking the people here into praying to God. What's the other big difference here? So Moses interceding is not the big difference, but it's a really important thing to note. It's how and why Moses intercedes that is different. And so here, as I see Jessica nodding as well, David, you saying, the people recognize that they're wrong and they ask Moses to intercede on their behalf. That does not happen in the Torah really prior to this. And indeed, if that main story that we're focusing on is what this is compared to, the story of the scouts, we have the result of what happened at the story of the scouts. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, the whole community shouted at them. If only we might die in this wilderness. Why is Adonai taking us to that land? It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. Another big difference. They never say they actually want to go back to Egypt. They just say, why did you bring us out? And they said to one another, let us head back to Egypt. And then immediately, Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembled congregation of the Israelites. And so the big difference here is that in the past, Moses has just interceded on behalf of the Israelites. He's done it on his own. He's seen the danger and said, I need to watch out for these people. I'm going to protect them. In this case, the people ask Moses to intercede on their behalf. They have learned from their mistake. They have said, they've recognized that they made a mistake and have learned from it. David, could you scroll up a bit? Perfect. Oop. There we go. And so, as we look at these two stories, what do they have in common? The very short one about the war, and now this serpent one. So there's still a lot of complaining. Do you think the Jewish people ever really lost that? No. Nope. But what else? What else do they have in common? Their faith is growing. That's absolutely right. Before, throughout most of the wilderness, they are saying, Moses, Aaron, help us. Moses, Aaron, you're leading us astray. Moses, Aaron, come on. Here, their attention has really turned to God and trusting that God will be there to help them. Major, major change. And yet, one of the things that I want to go back to that I think is really interesting is that idea in verse 4. Why did you make us leave Egypt? These people, again, didn't leave Egypt. And yet, throughout the 40 years of wandering, what did they hear their parents say over and over and over? Why did you make us leave Egypt? To be honest, I always hear, and I bet some of you out there may have said this. Actually, I know I've said it to campers and different things at times. It's like, why didn't you or why don't you learn from my mistakes? I'm not sure, and I think this story helps teach us, that we ever really learn from the mistakes of our parents. I think that that we are bound to make the mistakes of previous generations. But what is different is how we react after we make those mistakes. That's where the learning process happens. Because oftentimes we don't even recognize we're making the same mistakes that our parents made. But once we do after the fact, all too often, we can make a change. We can act differently. We can return and say, hey, we didn't do so great, but we'll try to do better again next time. And these two passages, here in this moment, as they're getting towards the end of the Exodus, show the growth of the Israelite people and the growth, hopefully, that each generation has, one after the other, to hopefully make a little bit of progress as we can from one generation to the next. And so I'll wrap up there. We'll say Shabbat Shalom, and we are going to move into Lecha Dodi on page 138.
חדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. חדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. טוב וזכור בדיבורך, תשמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ונתילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, Shabbat nekavela. לקראת שבת לכוון אלך, בין לכל הברכה, מראש מקדם לסוכה, ועשה במחשבה תחילה. Everyone stand, please. And we turn and face the back of the congregation as we prepare to welcome the Shabbat. And as you do, by the way, to take a look at each other, look into each other's eyes, see the life that's next to you and around you, because that's what this is all about, is bringing life into this place and into your own. B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Echadoti likakala. B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Bo'י ושלום עד תרד בעלה. גם בשמחה ובצולה. תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. אחד אותי לכלכלה. בני שבת נקבלה. אחד אותי לכלכלה. בני שבת נקבלה. אחד אותי לכלכלה. בני שבת נקבלה. אחד אותי לכלכלה. בני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing and turn to page 146 for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
On page 150, we join in singing Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת.
page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated as we turn to page 154 and we chant the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 157, we join at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 158. On page 160, we ask that God watch over us as we lie down to rest and wake up to life renewed.
us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashtivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom. Hamidenu Shomerenu
And we continue celebrating Shabbat on page 162 with Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
As we turn to page 164, I invite you to rise for the tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chaste Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, U'lema'an shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer, U'moshiach U'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor la'olam Adonai, mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, morid atal, mechakel chayim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, somech nofrim v'rofeh korim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umekayeh, umatmi'at Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata achayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Page 170. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. And we turn in our prayer books to page 175. And this prayer, it says, especially perhaps poignant and meaningful this evening as we think about it in context of the study that Rabbi Reinhardt led us in at the beginning of our service. And we read together at the middle of page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. And we turn to page 177, as on this beginning of Shabbat, we offer our gratitude. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And together at the top of page 179, we join together in a prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. And we turn now to prayers of our heart. First, a prayer that we have been saying for the past 9 months as we offer a prayer for those still being held hostage. Achenu kol beit Yisrael, for our siblings, our brothers, our sisters, the entire family of Israel, all who are in the midst of distress or taken into captivity, whether on sea or on land, may the ever-present one have compassion for them and bring them out from suffering to relief, from darkness to light, from oppression to redemption, now, swiftly and soon. And together we say, Amen. And we offer too a prayer for the state of Israel, written by our own Eva Ashner. Thank you, Adonai, for granting Israel the courage, the strength, and the power to defend her borders and her people. May the country continue to flourish. May it never give up hatikva, the hope that the day will come when Israel will be at peace with her neighbors. And may Israel always exist as the homeland for the Jewish people. And together we say, Amen. And now we turn in our prayer books to page 371 as we turn our prayers, our thoughts closer to home. And if you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing, a spiritual, physical, emotional healing, I ask that you rise at this time. And together as a community, we'll call their names aloud, sending their names into the heavens wrapped in our prayer. You may be seated. We take all of those names into our hearts. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as we join together now in singing Mishaberach, our prayer for healing. We take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
Yeshu v'ratzon imrefi v'egyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri
See, that's why I work with the tech crew. I can't even turn on the microphone. See, you don't have to have a lot of talent. I've demonstrated that just now. Rabbi, cantor. I didn't stutter.
What?
Huh? Who's on first, what's on second, and 4 are on the bima. Okay. My name is David Kaiser, and I'm a member of the UH Board of Trustees. I have a few announcements for you. Tomorrow at UH, there will be Torah study at 9 o'clock in the Javelin Youth Lounge or on Zoom. Shabbat morning service at 10 o'clock in the Spielberg Chapel right here in live stream. Please note this new time, 10 o'clock a.m. for the Shabbat morning service. There are upcoming events, Friday, August 30th at 6 o'clock. Let me see if I can get this right for you this week, because I just don't want you standing out in the parking lot alone, like we talked about last week.
That's all right.
Okay, Shabbat service celebrating Cantor Eicher in the sanctuary parking lot. So everyone, please join us for that beautiful event. Friday, September 6th at 6:30 p.m., we will have the sanctuary dedication. So right behind these walls, there's great things happening. Now don't peek, okay, you won't be surprised. The great things are happening right there. Throughout the summer, Shabbat services will be in the Spielberg Chapel, and Torah study will be in the Javelin Youth Lounge. Please remember to park in on the school office side of the building. For information on additional upcoming classes and programs, please visit the UH website. Thank you to the tech team, 3 gentlemen and 1 lady working tonight, trying to bring it all who can't join us in person into their homes, and hopefully they're all feeling the same warmth that we feel here. Please check our website or call the office for gift shop hours, and thank you all for joining in and being so beautiful with your music. I know they can hear it up here, and you all feel it out there. It makes the service that much more warm. So thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. And before we begin to conclude our service, just one more welcome, not to embarrass him, and I'll only do it one Friday night if he's here, but soon to be Rabbi Josh Sharf, who's joining us, who grew up here in St. Louis, and he actually has been, he made Aliyah 10 years ago, and he is in the Israeli rabbinic program for Hebrew Union College, and is home for the summer finishing up his work and writing his thesis. And over the next couple of weeks, he's actually going to join us for Torah study and teach us a little bit about, well, certainly Torah study, but his thesis, and he'll join us on the Bima in a couple of weeks as well to share with us. So welcome. We're so glad you're here in our community and getting the chance to be home to this home a little bit in St. Louis for the summer. I mean, Tel Aviv's pretty awesome in the summer. I mean, St. Louis, Tel Aviv, I don't know, but you got your mom's cooking, so that might outweigh the coolness of Tel Aviv vis-a-vis St. Louis. Sorry, St. Louis. So we turn to page 586 in our prayer books as we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוררנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. And we turn to page 593. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our life burns down in gutters. There's an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair. For we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and of life. This Shabbat, we are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for Del Levi. And this week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits and we lovingly remember Rose H. Barron, Mary Bender, Frida Gardner Bialik, Sylvia L. Bierman, Shirley Chackus, Rose I. Cherick, Bertha P. Coplin, Gerald Engman, Nathan M. Furman, Richard Keith Fox, Della Glass, Essie Goldberg, Marlon Goldblum, Alfred Goldman, Sarah G. Goldstein, Melva R. Goldstein, Rose Greenspan, Harry Hockman, Louis Horowitz, Meyer Hurwitz, Dr. Barry L. Jasper, Reggie Regina Klein, Alfred Kraus, Edna Lander, Leatrice Letty Lefkowitz, Jean Z. Levy, Matthew S. Levy, Milton M. Moss, Philip Reuben Newmark, Mildred Rain Plax, Ann Plocker, Ben Rabin, Mark Rosenblum, Ethel Rudolph Rothman, Susan Frank Rowe, Michael Philip Sachs, Walter M. Salzman, Norman D. Sandberg, Paul Sagan, Francis Silverman, John Simon, Tilly A. Stone, Sylvia Tucker, Melvin J. Tyner, Sally C. Waldman, Ben Yanow, Lillian Yavitz, Ethel Zeman, Goldie Zieser. If one of these loved ones is yours, I invite you to rise so that we may recognize the memory of your loved one. Zichronam livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing. And I now invite everyone to rise and stand with our mourners for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 598. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach Yerute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei Kudashah Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And on this Shabbat already we have learned so much. I turned to Rabbi Reinhardt and said, thank you. I learned a tremendous amount from his lesson early in our service. And it gives us a lot to think about. It reminds us, number one, we don't have to be perfect. And yes, there's room for grumbling at times. And that grumbling can be forgiven, but even more so when we recognize that we are doing it and we are learning from whatever has happened in our lives. And a reminder, too, that God is with us, that there is help, some sort of presence, some sort of something that is with us to help lift us up in those moments. One, when maybe we're not sure and we're standing on that precipice, ready to make that decision, and we can do it with a little bit of help, with that nudge from God. And I'll point to one more thing, maybe you'll talk about it tomorrow, but if you think about that serpent, yes, I love that image of them looking upward, but where do you know a serpent on a staff or on a stick? Yes, for medicine and healing. So just a beautiful thing to think about of that imagery coming out of Torah, and perhaps God as a healer, God who brings healing as we connect with God. And we end tonight with a prayer of peace, peace in our hearts, and a reminder that we can bring peace into this world if we just keep moving forward.
May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down.
Shabbat Shalom.